Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. Your support helps us bring you more stories like this. Now, let us begin. Catherine Moley was born in June 1829 in the small village of Acton, located in the English county of Suffolk. She was the daughter of William Moley and his wife, Maria. Catherine grew up alongside her younger brother and sister, Thomas and Hannah, within a modest rural household. The family lived in a thatched farmhouse that had been divided into 3 separate units, reflecting their limited financial means and the common living arrangements of working families in the area. 9 years after Catherine's birth, her father became the subject of a local investigation, following the death of an elderly man named William Kilpatrick. The 2 men had spent an evening drinking together in the nearby market town of Sudbury. After an inquiry, authorities concluded that Kilpatrick had likely taken his own life, and no charges were brought against William Moley. Despite this official ruling, some residents of Acton remained quietly suspicious of the circumstances, though no further action was taken. Catherine was raised during a period when education for girls from poorer families was limited and informal. Schooling was not compulsory, and most instruction was reserved for wealthier children. Catherine attended the local charity school in Acton, where she received basic lessons in reading, writing, and religious instruction. Learning did not come easily to her, but she was consistently described as quiet, pleasant, and unassuming. Her daily life was shaped by domestic duties and family responsibility, forming the routine that defined her early years. By July 1845, following her father's death and her mother's growing financial strain, Catherine Moley entered domestic service to help support the family. She secured employment in the household of a gentleman named Mr. Birds, who lived in the village of Bulmer in neighboring Essex, roughly 7 miles from Acton. Catherine stayed with her employer throughout the week and returned home each Sunday, maintaining close ties with her family despite the distance. This arrangement reflected the realities faced by many young working women of the time, whose labor often provided essential income for their households. Catherine's work was steady and demanding, but it allowed her mother to manage more effectively as a widow. During this period, Catherine was courted by John Foster, a farm laborer who lived in Acton and worked in the nearby village of Chilton. He was 7 years older than Catherine and showed persistent interest in her over more than a year. Although Catherine did not return his feelings with enthusiasm, she accepted his companionship. The 2 were often seen walking together through the village or traveling to Sudbury, becoming a familiar sight to local residents. John's desire for marriage was driven largely by practical concerns. He lived in a crowded household with his mother and 2 sisters, both of whom had children born out of wedlock. Marriage represented stability and independence. In September 1846, Catherine left her position with Mr. Birds and returned home to assist her mother, a change that increased John's visits and strengthened expectations that the pair would marry. Catherine Moley agreed to marry John Foster not out of affection, but from a sense of duty and practicality. Her family had struggled financially since her father's death, and her mother worked tirelessly to provide for her children. John offered stability, respectability, and a regular income that promised some relief from hardship. The couple were married on 28 October 1846 at All Saints' Church in Acton, Suffolk. The ceremony was modest, reflecting their limited means, and attended by friends and neighbors from the village. Following the wedding, Catherine and John moved into the Moley family cottage, sharing the small thatched home with Maria Moley. In the days that followed, the couple settled into a routine. John continued his work as a farm laborer, leaving early each morning, while Catherine took on her responsibilities as a wife, managing household tasks and meals. Though still adjusting to married life, they appeared outwardly content, and nothing seemed amiss to those around them. However, within a week of the wedding, Catherine left Acton to visit her aunt in the village of Pentonham, approximately 20 miles away. She explained that she had never had the opportunity to visit her aunt during her years in service, and wished to do so now. Although the timing was unusual, John did not object. Catherine remained there for 10 days before returning home and resuming her domestic routine, only days before John Foster's sudden illness. In the days following their reunion, John Foster complained of a mild headache on Sunday, 15th November 1846. Despite this discomfort, he continued his work and showed no signs of serious illness. On Monday, he rose early and worked as usual, appearing in good spirits and health. By Tuesday morning, he seemed fully recovered and completed his tasks without difficulty. That afternoon, Catherine spent time visiting John's mother before leaving at around 5 o'clock to return home and prepare supper. That evening's meal consisted of dumplings, a simple and familiar dish Catherine had prepared many times before. At approximately 6 o'clock, John sat down to eat with Catherine and her younger brother Thomas. Conversation was ordinary, and nothing unusual was observed during the meal. Shortly afterward, John began to feel unwell. Experiencing nausea and abdominal discomfort, he decided to lie down in the small ground-floor bedroom he shared with his wife. As the evening progressed, his condition worsened. He vomited repeatedly and became increasingly weak, showing no signs of relief. Maria Moli returned later that night and attempted to nurse her son-in-law. She prepared him a bowl of gruel with a splash of brandy in hopes of easing his pain. When John vomited again, Maria disposed of the contents, along with the remaining dumplings, by emptying them at the edge of the garden. Throughout the night, John's suffering continued, marking the beginning of a rapid and fatal decline. Despite John Foster's visible distress, Catherine did not remain by his side during the night. Instead, she chose to sleep upstairs with her mother, leaving John alone in the bedroom below. This decision was noted as unusual, given his worsening condition, though no explanation beyond her actions was recorded. Early the next morning, Catherine rose and checked on her husband. Finding him still pale, weak, and unable to rise, she decided to seek medical assistance. At approximately 8 o'clock, she left the house to visit Dr. Robert Jones, who practiced in the nearby village of Long Melford, just 2 miles away. Despite the short distance, Catherine did not arrive until 10 o'clock, a delay that was never explained. When she finally spoke with Dr. Jones, Catherine described John's symptoms vaguely. She mentioned nausea and discomfort, but failed to convey the severity of his condition. Based on her account, Dr. Jones believed John was suffering from English cholera, a condition known to be circulating locally. He prepared 2 medicinal powders, one containing mercury with chalk and the other powdered rhubarb, and instructed Catherine to administer them. He also stated he would visit later that day. During this interaction, Catherine did not identify herself as John's wife, and her demeanor was described as detached. After leaving the doctor, she took a longer route home. Upon returning, she gave John only one of the prescribed powders and continued caring for him as his condition deteriorated. By mid-afternoon on Wednesday, 18 November 1846, John Foster's condition had significantly worsened. When Maria Moli returned home around 3 o'clock, she was alarmed by his appearance and increasing weakness. Despite continued efforts to care for him, there was no improvement. At approximately 4 o'clock that afternoon, John Foster died. He was just days into his marriage, and his death came suddenly after less than 24 hours of severe illness. The household was left in shock as they awaited medical assistance. Dr. Robert Jones arrived at the cottage around 5 o'clock, expecting to examine a sick patient. Instead, he was informed that John had already died. The rapid progression from reported mild illness to death troubled him deeply. Finding the circumstances unusual, Dr. Jones made the decision to remove John Foster's stomach for further examination, a step taken due to his concerns about the cause of death. Following this, Dr. Jones reported the death to the local coroner, Dr. Wyman. Upon reviewing the situation, the coroner shared concerns that the death may not have been natural. He immediately ordered a formal inquest along with a post-mortem examination to determine the exact cause. At this stage, no conclusions had been reached, and no accusations had been made. John Foster's death was considered unexpected and suspicious, prompting official scrutiny and setting in motion the legal proceedings that would soon follow. The inquest into John Foster's death opened on 21 November 1846 at the Crown Inn in Acton. At the outset, proceedings were described as routine, with no immediate assumption of foul play. Catherine Foster, now a teenage widow, was called to testify. Calm and composed, she described John's complaints of headache, nausea, and heartburn, as well as the events leading up to his death. Dr. Robert Jones also gave evidence, explaining his earlier diagnosis and his surprise at John's sudden death. During his examination of the body, he observed signs that suggested the possibility of poisoning. His suspicions were reinforced when he learned that chickens belonging to a neighboring property had died after consuming John's vomit and the discarded dumplings from the garden. These developments prompted Coroner Wyman to adjourn the inquest. A full post-mortem examination and chemical analysis were ordered, along with an examination of the dead chickens. The investigation was conducted by Dr. Impey, a surgeon from Bury St Edmunds. When the inquest resumed on 27 November, Dr. Impey delivered his findings. He confirmed that a significant quantity of arsenic had been detected in John Foster's stomach. The same poison was also found in the remains of the chickens. There was no evidence to suggest any other cause of death. Based on this testimony and John Foster's previously good health, the jury returned a unanimous verdict of willful murder. Catherine Foster was immediately arrested and taken into custody, transforming the case from a sudden death into a charge of murder. Catherine Foster's trial took place on 29 March, 1847, at the court in Bury St Edmunds. The proceedings were presided over by Judge Pollock, with Mr. Gordon leading the prosecution and Mr. Power representing the defense. When Catherine was brought into the dock, she appeared calm and dignified, dressed in mourning attire. She pleaded not guilty. Medical evidence was presented by Dr. Jones and Dr. Impey, both reaffirming that John Foster had died from arsenic poisoning. Two of John's co-workers, James Pleasance and William Steed, testified that he had appeared healthy when leaving work on the day he became ill. A key witness was 8-year-old Thomas Moley, Catherine's younger brother, and the only other person present in the house that evening. He testified that Catherine prepared the dumplings and that he saw her remove a paper from her pocket, pour a dark powder into the mixture, and burn the paper afterward. He also stated that John's dumplings were served from a different cloth. Under cross-examination, Thomas admitted he could not tell time, and parts of his testimony were inconsistent. Mary Ann Chinnery, a neighbor, testified that Catherine remarked she would not have married John had she gone to Bury St Edmunds earlier. She also described seeing a hen eat a piece of dumpling and later die. The defense argued public bias, lack of motive, and no proof Catherine possessed arsenic. After brief deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict. Following the guilty verdict, Catherine Foster was sentenced to death by Judge Pollock. She was just 17 years old. 2 weeks later, on 12 April 1847, Catherine made a written confession in which she admitted her guilt in the murder of her husband. One later source suggested that Catherine had committed the crime because she loved another man. However, this claim did not appear in her confession, and no contemporary records support that explanation. As such, no confirmed motive was officially established beyond the act itself. Catherine Foster was executed at 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, 17th April, 1847. The execution took place at Market Hill, in a meadow on the west side of the prison at Bury St Edmunds. An estimated 10,000 people gathered to witness the hanging, making it a significant public event. The execution marked the first hanging in the city since the execution of William Corder for the Red Barn murder 20 years earlier. Catherine Foster became the last woman to be hanged in the county of Suffolk. After her death, she was buried within the grounds of Bury St Edmunds prison. Her case remains a notable example of 19th-century criminal justice, remembered for its outcome and its lasting place in local history.